And hello, Savannah. Thank you for tuning into Real Estate Real Talk with Julia M. Spencer. It's Wednesday noon. It is the middle of the week, middle of the day. I am so glad you guys are all tuned in again to my show here. Appreciate you being here. If you're a constant listener, I'm glad that you're tuned back in. And today's show, I actually just thought of it this morning. I was kind of a little bit lazy. That's why I just played you the song Spent the Day in Bed by Morrissey. And actually, Morrissey, I think, has a song for just about every situation in life, past, present, and future. So it was a good one to also after the Finding Happiness episode by Mr. Paul Licky about sex, which you just heard of at noon. So that was a good match. I was actually not intending to add that according to that, but that was good. So anyways, our show here is focused specifically on real estate investing and anything and everything related to real estate. And periodically we have guests on the show. The viewpoints expressed in the following program, though, are not necessarily those of WRUU, its license holder, or its staff. I always want to read the disclaimer. I have a lot of opinions on the show. But today's show, I wanted to talk about overage investing or excess proceeds investing. What exactly it is, how to go about doing it if you're interested in it, and some of the pros and cons. And a lot of it is going to lead me into talking about how to do property record search, which is actually what I did yesterday with a student of mine who's here in town from New York. She's actually in the studio listening also, so she's kind of observing me doing the radio show here today. But in any case, a lot of what we do as real estate investors is research property records, deeds, quitclaim deeds, any kind of affidavits, any documents that are filed by attorneys, and anything and everything in between. And I have a lot of questions about these, but these questions usually are attached to overage investing or excess proceeds investing. So I wanted to do the show about this today. So the way I'm going to structure the show today for all of you is I'm going to actually play you little sections of some YouTube videos that I have online that are free to watch online for more information, but I'm going to cut little sections out and then play those for you, and then we're going to talk about them a little bit. But first off, before I start getting into one of the videos and before I set it up, wanted to tell you really briefly on a layman's term, basically what overage investing is, or excess proceeds investing, which is basically the same thing. But it's basically a step further from tax sale foreclosure investing. So when you go to states such as Georgia, such as here in Chatham County, when you go to like a tax sale foreclosure in investing auction, which there was actually one here in Chatham County yesterday, and there is a tax liability on a piece of property, and there's all kinds of people that want to bid on this property, and sometimes there's a little bit of a fierce bidding war. For example, yesterday there was a property that initially, I think the starting bid was maybe like $1,500 or something, and it ended up going back and forth until the final bid was $20,000. Now, when I looked that property up, and actually I drove by that property as well the day before, or 2 days before, the tax appraiser's property card stated that it was worth about $54,000. So a sales price of $20,000 was still a good deal. But that's not what was owed on the taxes. That was just what was paid by the highest bidder. So there was a difference, a delta between what was needed to be paid on that property and what the final bid was, which was the $20,000 minus what was owed, the $1,500. So you're about $18,500 of an overage. So there's people at these auctions that are specifically targeting these overages, because these overages are by law typically due to the original owner of the property, the person that lost their property at that auction. So these overage investors, or excess proceeds investors is what they're called, they target these overages, and then what they do, either prior to the sale, sometimes they do it prior actually, but a lot of times after the sale, they gather information of the original owner, and then they go and contact them, sign a contract with them, and basically as a third party collect that money for the original owner. Now, a lot of times the original owner doesn't even know that there was such a big overbid on a property that they've lost. Maybe they're already, wrote off the fact that they lost their property and they kind of are sad or walked away, or maybe just don't want to have anything to do with the property. So they a lot of times don't know that the government owes the money. And this is, by the way, dear Savannah listeners, this is what they're talking about when you listen to these late night infomercials late at night. Our government owes you money. I'm going to try to help you to get it. Sign up with me. Call me. I'll look you up in my database and we're going to work and get you all this money. That's kind of one of the things that they're talking about. They're trying to find this money for you and get it for you if you lost property. Now, this I guess this strategy isn't working in every state or in every county, because a lot of the places, overage investing isn't done with an overbid. It's a different kind of bidding process. Sometimes, and I explained that actually in my video, so I'm just going to run it here a little bit in a few seconds. But basically that's what overage investing and excess proceeds investing is. And these overage investors get lists from databases from all over the country. And they have sometimes hundreds of clients that they contact and sign contracts with to collect overages for them. Sad things that can happen is that sometimes the people that they're contacting are elderly and they don't really know who they're talking to. Maybe they're in need of money for medical bills or whatever. And these overage investors contact them, make them sign contracts, maybe even several at the same time. So then you're getting into a legal situation in terms of whose contract is first. And a lot of states and a lot of counties have taken precautions according to this, and they are now restricting whether or not third parties can collect excess proceeds or overage amounts on these tax sales. And they also sometimes put a cap on it, because these investors sometimes collected up to 50%. And some states have caps on just a few percent or maybe 10% and just a small amount, so it makes it not worthwhile for these overage investors to hunt down the original owners. So anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm talking a lot. I'm going to go ahead and play you another song. And then what we're going to do, we're going to get right to the video. I'm going to set it up in the meantime for you. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about this topic of overage investing and excess proceeds investing. And this is Julia M. Spencer with Real Estate Real Talk. Again, we're talking about overage investing and excess proceeds investing. And I prepared a little video for you. Actually, I didn't prepare it for this occasion. It was already online. If you want more information and watch the entire video, it's actually called Watch This Before Starting Overage Investing, and I'm going to play a part of it for you right now. Right now, let me get to the answer to this question. Some of the things that you need to know in case you're an overage investor, and something I have not mentioned in my audiobooks, you probably should know this. So this particular investor actually has asked me two questions. First off, where do you get the list for overages, and how do you get a good list so you can start contacting people? This is especially important if you're not located in the United States and you want to invest here. Where do you get the list? How do you know if it's a good list? And so on and so forth. And the second question was some of the things that you need to be aware of in terms of a waiting period to get the county officials, to give you the overage amounts to disperse to your clients. So let's answer the first part of this question. How do you get a good list? Well, first off, the overage investor that I interview in my audiobook on tax sale foreclosure investing, he actually subscribes to a skip trace type program and to find people, but he also has a specific software program that he uses that basically sends him information about every single tax sale that happened in the United States. Now, there's some states that will not be feasible for you to invest in overage investing, simply because there won't be any overages, because those states basically are bid down the interest or bid down the ownership, so there's not going to be an overage at all anyways. So is no amount that goes above what is owed. It's just the amount that's owed, plus you basically bid just on the interest, and the person that bids on the least amount of interest is going to get that particular property. So those states kind of fall off. And so you basically need to go online and see if you can find a software that you can subscribe to, or a provider that you can subscribe to, that will then feed you the list on a weekly basis, or sometimes on a daily basis, on all the tax sales that happened in the United States, in different states, or the states that you select. Now, I told this particular subscriber that the best way actually to get a list is actually to go to the tax sales yourself and make those notes how much money was overbid on a particular property. That's kind of like cumbersome, and you don't get a lot of hits on that just because there's not so many sales that you can go to. You're just one person, so it might be better if you want like a real comprehensive list of all the states, to find a subscription service to feed that information to you. Okay, so let's get to the second answer of this video, which is some of the things that you need to watch out for if you're doing overage investing. So one thing that you need to know is that overages, if you're trying to get a piece of the overage amount, first off, it depends on whether there are other claimants. So a mortgage, or maybe somebody else who has a lien against the property, actually also has a claim on that overage. So including the IRS, actually, believe it or not. And the IRS actually also has a claim on any tax sale foreclosure properties as well. So if you buy a property that has an IRS lien or any kind of lien, it is advisable to wait at least 120 days before you kind of get that overage amount, or start filing the paperwork for your client, for the owner, to get that amount. So basically, if there's an IRS claim on a property, you basically, if the IRS does not make a claim on that particular overage, or the overage amount, or the property at a tax sale foreclosure, they have about 120 days. Most claimants have around 120 days also. So you can't really get any kind of overage amount. I would definitely wait for about 120 days so you can be for sure that there's no other claimants there. You have to check your tax commissioner's office to see if you're required to notify them, or who is notifying any other claimants, and proceed from there. It might be different for every state, so I don't know what state you're in, so you need to send me a message or leave a comment and ask me for any particular state so I can check on that. Another thing that you need to check for if you do an overage investing is create very good contracts that put you on contract with the actual original owner for the overage. And this, I've heard this actually from county officials, that they say that sometimes the original owners are elderly. They don't really kind of have a full grasp on life anymore. They have kind of dementia issues, and sometimes they don't know what's going on. They don't have anybody to help them, bless their heart. But they will sign several contracts with several different overage investors, and so now whose contract is first, you don't know, and you're into this big legal mess, and you're not really sure whether you're going to get that overage amount that you're investing for. So you need to check on those things. And that was my video on what to watch out for if you want to get into overage investing. For more information on the website, the video is called Watch This Before Starting Overage Investing. It's on YouTube. We're talking today on this real estate show here, Real Estate Real Talk, with Julia M. Spencer, myself, about overage investing and proceeds investing, which is the same thing, which is basically people trying to get to the money that's paid on overbids at tax sale foreclosure sales. Incidentally, we had one here in Chatham County yesterday at 10 a.m. at the courthouse. I was there with a student of mine, and there was one property that was actually somebody bid an amount of close to actually a little bit over $18,000 of an overbid. So the original owner that used to own that property, they actually are supposed to be getting that money right now. And the way it works here in Chatham County, since we're here in Savannah, wanted to talk a little bit about that, is actually really easy. And I've asked about this. I went to the tax commissioner's office before, and basically asked them, how do you do that? And they're kind of a little bit hesitant to have a third party come in and collect any money for an original owner that lost their property at a sale. So they will give you the forms, they'll give you the information, but they will most definitely inform the original owner that they can just get the money themselves, that they don't have to hire anybody else to do it for them, that they shouldn't, and probably it's not a good idea to sign any contracts with anybody else. So they're definitely looking out for the person that lost their property at the sale for whatever reason. In this case, we actually did go to the courthouse and we checked on this particular property, and it looked like there was a number of liens against that person that used to own that property. There were hospital liens, there were mortgages, some of them were canceled, some of them were still outstanding. There was a lot of documents, so there's a lot of information there. And so in this show, I basically just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the advantages and disadvantages, and I've also talked to some of my investor friends out west and kind of asked them what they thought about overage investing. And I also have been getting, as of late, a lot of questions about overage investing. And I think the biggest appeal to people about this particular subset of tax sale foreclosure investing is the fact that you can go in with no money whatsoever. And you're not actually even really investing in real estate because you're not acquiring property, but you basically are going to be a person that searches for people and puts them on contract to collect a fee. So if you kind of can think about a debt collector that's hired a third person to collect some sort of debt for somebody, look at that as the reverse of that. You're hired or hire yourself, or basically employ yourself as a debit collector, I guess, not a credit collector, and basically try to find people who the government indeed does owe money to. So it should be a good thing. If the interest that's collected or the fee that's collected is reasonable, and if you, as the person that lost the property and money is owed to you, is kind of like in the situation where you really have a hard time with forms. A lot of people have attention deficit disorder, and I actually can claim that for myself because the amount of paperwork that sometimes is involved in our bureaucracy is crazy. I basically wouldn't mind to hire somebody and just pay them a small percentage to take care of all of that. And a lot of the people that lose properties at tax sale foreclosures are elderly people of maybe not such a high education level, and they would have a very hard time maneuvering through the paperwork that's necessary. So let's talk a little bit about the questions that I've had regarding overage investing or excess proceeds investing. And so, but before I get to that, I wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping because we are actually here a community-ran radio station, and we're supported by you listeners. So WRUU listeners like you crave exploration and discovery. That's how we can offer your business or organization a unique way to separate your name from the clutter inherent in commercial radio advertising. Underwriting on non-commercial WRUU will make your name stand out because we allow only a limited number of sponsorships per hour. And your message will be reaching listeners who are actively engaged in programs that demand their attention. Let our team build a customized plan to meet your marketing goals by linking your name to our unique music and talk programs. For more information, email underwriting@wruu.org. And you're listening to Real Estate Real Talk with myself, Julia M. Spencer. We're talking about overage investing or excess proceeds investing, which is the same thing. And some of the questions that I've had on some of my YouTube videos were very specific to property card research. And as you've listened to in my little excerpt of this video that I just played, when there is an overage situation, when somebody overbid at a tax sale foreclosure and there's this extra money sitting there that the county is now holding, which they've already satisfied their tax lien, there's more money sitting there. So as you've heard in the video, there's all kinds of other lien holders that now can kind of put their hands on it and get all over that. And that could be mortgage companies, any kind of contractors that have a contractor lien on the property. Could be the IRS, could be a number of people. And so what will happen then, if you are an overage investor, you would actually have to go to the courthouse and do some research on those properties and to see who else has a claim on that money, because you, by law, have to disperse that to them first before you can collect the excess, and whatever is left is then owed to the original owner. So the question I had is from this particular new investor that wants to get into this type of investing, and he asked me this. I'm going to just read you the questions. Can you provide information on how to check mortgage background for a specific property and owner? Then he asks, can you help me locate the book reference instrument number for properties in various different counties? And his questions just keep on going. He actually sent me a lot of them, and all of them have to do with basically how do you find out who all these other lien holders are. I mean, and I think his specific reason is once he has an overage amount, he wants to see who else that money needs to go to and what's left at the end, whether it's even then necessary for him to try to find the original owner, because if that amount is basically depleted, there wouldn't be anything to give back to the original owner or for him to take as a percentage. So he wanted to know very specifically how to research properties at the courthouse, property records. So, and my answer to him, actually we went back and forth on this for a while, and it was very apparent after a short discussion that he's actually never been to a courthouse and seen the books and the systems and how it's looked up. So I did make another video that I also posted on YouTube, and it's called How to Get Info About Anyone's Mortgage. And I'm going to go ahead and get that video ready for you. Going to play it for you. It's about 6 minutes long or so. But in the meantime, while I do that, I will play you a song by a very famous artist that's been in the news here very recently. And that would be because Starman on his way to Mars is actually playing it in his car. And this song goes out to my two sons, Julian and Buddha, one in school and one sick at home. And hopefully they're always listening to my show. And this one is for them.
This portion of WRUU-LP Savannah Soundings programming is made possible by a grant from Sentient Bean, offering fair trade coffee, vegan and vegetarian food, and breakfast all day. Located at 13 East Park Avenue, across the street from the tennis courts at Forsyth Park. Our menu and special events listings can be found at sentientbean.com.
Clean Coast is a volunteer organization which works to combat marine debris by holding monthly beach and marsh cleanups along the Georgia coast. If you would like to find out more or volunteer, visit cleancoast.org.
And thanks again for staying with me for Real Estate Real Talk with Julia M. Spencer. And I have a video here. I'm going to play part of it for you, which basically talks about how to get information about anyone's mortgage. We're discussing overage investing and excess proceeds investing, part of that process. A specific subset of tax sale foreclosure investing does involve you being able to research property records, mortgages being one of them. And I made this video a while back describing that topic a little bit more in detail. But of course, it's always nice to find out information about one's mortgage or anybody else's mortgage. So here is that video. Video is how do you research a mortgage on a piece of real estate in the United States? How do you do that? And is that even public information? So I got a message from a subscriber who wants to know whether he can research a mortgage, maybe not his, maybe his neighbor's, I don't know, to see how much that person paid for their property, how much their down payment was, what their interest rate is, and also how much is left on the mortgage, and how do you research that. I'm going to include that information actually in my newest audiobook on tax sale foreclosure investing. This will be my second audiobook on tax sale foreclosure investing. The first one is already out there on my website. You can download it today. Julia, listen to this video, probably the second one will be out already also. because obviously this video will stay online for forever, as long as YouTube lets me keep it. So let's answer the question, how do you research somebody else's mortgage or anybody else's mortgage, or even if there is a mortgage, which is something that you'll need to know if you're investing in tax sale foreclosures, and if you want to know if there's liens on the property. So the thing is that all real estate in the United States has property records. The property records are usually filed at the courthouse for the county where the property is located. These are a matter of public record, so you can actually go to the courthouse and check on those properties. And you can go to the courthouse and basically go to the court recorder or the property records. This be a specific section in the courthouse, in the county courthouse, where the property is located. You can ask any clerk there to show you how to use their systems. In the older days, they used to do this with really thick books. They're like super thick. There's hundreds of books, and basically they'll have like a little system of little cards and stuff, and you can find a property and they'll tell you which book and which page you're supposed to look. These days everything's pretty much digitized, and a lot of the stuff is actually online, so you can actually probably just type in the name of your county where you're looking and see if you can find real estate records or property records or real estate, and see if you can pull up anything there. But in terms of a mortgage, what you're looking for is a warranty deed or security deed document. If there is a mortgage on a particular property, then that would be filed right there at the courthouse where those records are, basically. And you'll be able to see then for how much. First off, a couple of things of information. You're going to see on that record, first off, when the mortgage was signed into action, basically, or when it was filed, was probably it was filed a couple of days after it was signed. So the date of sale, you'll be able to find that out. You'll be able to find out how much the person paid for the property. A lot of times, obviously, if you have a mortgage, the bank pays for it, and the person that signs the mortgage document then gets a warranty deed in exchange for a security deed. So basically, the ownership of the property is subject to them paying for that particular mortgage for however many months or years, and for a specific rate that's specified in the document. And then you'll also be able to see what kind of mortgage it is. Like, say, is it a fixed mortgage where the payments don't change over the term, or is it a variable mortgage, or is it a balloon payment mortgage, and those kinds of things. So you'll be able to see all of that from that document. Now, in terms of how much is actually left on the mortgage at any particular time that you look at it, you have to take it a little bit further. There's actually amortization schedules that you can look up online. These are called amortization schedules. It's kind of like a long word, but if you type it into any kind of Google search, you'll be able to pull it up. And this is where you put in the basic variables of that particular mortgage, which is the date that it was started, for how many years it was signed for. Usually mortgages go anywhere 15 to 20 to 30 years. It also tells you the terms of the interest rate. If it's a fixed mortgage. Now, if it's a variable interest mortgage, then you wouldn't know the particular interest at that particular time that you're looking, but you'd be able to calculate it, because it will tell you that the interest rate would vary with whatever the prime rate is at the moment, which is also something that you can look up online. And then you basically would plug in all those numbers, and then you'll be able to see where you are in that amortization schedule. So basically, if you've already been making, or the person that you're looking up that signed this mortgage has already been making payments for on a 30-year mortgage for 5 years, you're going to be at the very beginning of the amortization schedule still. So that means a lot of the money that that person is paying, or that you're paying if it's your mortgage, is going to go for the interest and very little to the actual equity. So you'll be able to calculate all that. Now, if you want to know how much actually the payment is that that person is paying, a lot of times mortgages will also establish an escrow account in your name alongside the mortgage. So there'll be a payment for the principal, for the interest, for the insurance, as well as the taxes. So all these, all these four things. In some states, even the condo association fees, depending on what state you're in. But basically, all those four things make up the payment. So it won't tell you directly on the mortgage usually what the payment is, but it's very easy to calculate that. You just need these little pieces, plug all that information in, figure out what date is it right now, and then you'll see how much is left on the mortgage, how much the payment is, if they're behind on anything, and you'll be able to see all of that. You'll also be able to see if there's any other liens against the property, such as a land lien or a lawn lien. For example, if the county or the city had to come and pay to cut the grass because the owner didn't pay it, stuff like that. And any kind of construction liens. For example, if the owner had a roof repaired and didn't make the payment to the contractor, then the contractor would basically, be able to put a lien against the property, which means that they're still not going to get paid, but the owner would have to satisfy all liens before they could release a good warranty deed to the next owner upon sale. So I hope all of this made sense. I hope it's not information overload. And that was my video about how to get info on anyone's mortgage. It's actually goes a little bit more detail about how to research property records in general. And we're talking today on Real Estate Real Talk about how to do overage investing or excess proceeds investing. And part of that is how to research property information at the courthouse. And, with all of this information and everything that I said in this video, and you can do all this yourself, but I always recommend to anyone that wants to get into real estate investing, that actually seriously considers it, when they first get started, of course, look at the property records and go to the courthouse and look at the documents that are there. And the more of them that you see, the more familiar they'll be to you. There's always the same things: warranty deeds, security deeds, affidavits of whatever sort, sometimes tax deeds, sheriff's deeds. And these things, it's quite overwhelming in the beginning, and there's a little bit of a learning curve. But the more you look at them, the more they all sound and look the same. So you'll be able to spot things and oddities very quickly. Also, if you own property in Chatham County and you want to just check out your own records, you can go do that here at the courthouse on Montgomery Street here in Savannah, Georgia. Actually, when I went yesterday with my student and we looked at some property information there, I looked up some of my property records, and so far, kudos to the courthouse. Everything seems to be in order. However, what I did want to note to you guys, if you do want to do this here in Chatham County, the property records are not available for just anyone to go online on your computer research. You have to subscribe to that. We did ask a lady that works there, I think her name was Trudy. She showed us the computer. She was very friendly, and she showed us how to navigate the screens. They're very extremely helpful people there at the courthouse. And you basically type in a person's name, and sometimes you can even do an advanced search with the map number or the address, and you can pull up the records there. And of course, it's free when you go to the courthouse. If you want to do this from the comfort of your home, you would have to subscribe. That's typical what I've seen, especially in some of the bigger cities or bigger counties, that there is now a subscription attached to you seeing property records online from your home, because otherwise, if you're going to pay for a subscription, you probably have a legitimate reason to look at those records. So not just anybody from anywhere in the world can look at them. And I kind of mentioned previously in my previous shows why that's actually important, because sometimes very important information is left on those documents that shouldn't be, such as social security numbers. So that's good information not to be spread out into the world without some sort of process to track who looks at it, and they can do that with subscriptions. But in any case, if you're starting to get into real estate investing, you kind of really don't know what you're doing yet, or if you want to research a property that you want to foreclose on maybe anytime or sometime in the future, I always recommend to get an attorney to do this for you. And as a fair warning here on this show, I am not an attorney, I'm not a realtor, I am purely a real estate investor, completely unbiased, independent. I don't work for anybody except for myself, so my information is very neutral, but I do still recommend that if you don't really know exactly what you're looking at with title searches, it's always good to hire an attorney to do this for you. They have title search companies that they employ and specific software where they can really literally find anything and everything related to a property where there's absolutely no doubt. This is also important if you get into tax sale foreclosure investing and you're doing borrowing of redemption rights, basically borrowing the original owner to claim the property back after the redemption period is up. So you need to know these kinds of things. But again, I recommend to let attorneys do what they get paid to do, and they're good at it. But still, go to a courthouse and check out the records there. Check out your records. Maybe you want to check out your neighbor's records or somebody you don't like, or maybe somebody you do like. And I'm always curious to see what my neighbors paid for their houses. I hope none of them are listening, but that's just what I do. That's my job. So I'm not going to, don't hold it against me. So, to proceed with the show, unfortunately, we are almost again at the top of the hour, and I am always so sad to leave. Always so happy to be here at WRUU, and so sad to leave, and wanted to just tell you guys that you are listening to WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with global soul. And before I sign off for the day, I'm going to play you one more last song. Oh yeah, I'm going to just give you a couple of announcements here. But before I sign off, I wanted to basically just tell you that you can reach me by just emailing me, realestate@juliamspencer.com. You can also find me on the WRUU.org website there. Just go to Wednesdays at noon and there'll be my show. There'll be also a couple of my previous shows already uploaded there. So if you want to listen to any of those, you can do that. But before I sign off, I want to give you a little bit of a readout of what one of my investor friends said about the whole overage investing and excess proceeds investing strategy of making money with real estate. And I'm going to just read it to you because I don't want to spoil it. So he basically said, I've already looked into it and it's iffy. There are only a few states where it makes sense to pursue it. For instance, here in San Diego, this person's from San Diego, they automatically give excess proceeds back to the original owners. It takes over a year, however. So in that instance, investors are left out in the cold. Other states are more investor-friendly in that respect because the rules favor someone who helps the original owner make a claim. So that's pretty much what I heard from this person. I asked the second person, also located in California, and he said he will be sending me some information on it. He wasn't pro or con. And there was a third person that I talked to, and he is an actual overage investor. He does this for a living. And I actually interviewed him a while back for one of my books, and he seemed to love doing it. But what I gathered from that interview, if you ever have a chance to listen to it, he was just a nervous wreck. I mean, he was very anxious about it, and some of the things that he was mostly concerned about, and this is something if you want to get into overage investing and excess proceeds investing, you're not really going to have too much stress finding the information on property cards or information about liens or anything like that. That's kind of like easy to find, but what you're going to have stress with is the fact that first off, you're going to have to find people to sign contracts with, because a lot of them are either deceased or missing in action or just absolutely, the properties are vacant in no man's land. So it's very hard to find the people first that originally owned these properties. And second, which is probably the most stressful thing that he told me about, is the fact that counties don't really have very straightforward laws or rules or precedents of when they have to release any funds. So he actually was sharing with me that he had some $55,000 of excess proceeds just sitting there on his books. He's already had signed contracts with the original owners, and he was ready to get that money from the counties and give those to the original owners, but the counties were just not releasing it. And there was no laws that they should in any particular point of time. There's no precedence, there's no specific law, and he actually contacted me to find out if I knew about any laws or lawyers that could help him press those counties to release those funds. Now, and the reason they do this, of course, they hold the money to apply to future taxes. They also hold the money sometimes because there is a period after which they don't have to release any money. They just keep it. And matter of fact, San Diego County, where I just came from, if the money isn't collected within a year, it just goes to the county fund and nobody gets it. So yes, it is reality. There is money sitting there out there in government funds that may belong to you, so you may want to look into that. In any case, I'm talking and talking and talking. I hope you liked my show today. We're almost at the top here. Again, if you want to listen to more Real Estate Real Talk, go ahead and tune in, 107.5 FM. Wanted to just briefly tell you that the viewpoints expressed in the preceding program were not necessarily those of WRUU, its listeners, its license holder, or its staff. They were my opinions. And and you can reach me at realestate@juliamspencer.com if you have any additional questions. The last song that I'm going to play for you is going to be Pillow Talk by Wild Child, and it's going to tune you right into your jazz brunch for today.
For your free guide to real estate investing, visit juliamspencer.com.